Hey guys, this is Jon Blau with the Herald Times. I'm here with Jeremy Price after a 67-63 win for IU over number 11 Michigan State. It seems like being number 11 and coming here isn't a good thing. So
being number anything and coming here is not a good thing.
Yeah, Florida State number 17, Ohio State number 11. They got another win over number 11. So IU's starting to rack up some, signature resume building wins here.
Yeah, and they're doing what you need to do, basically. And they beat Ohio State, which obviously Ohio State's struggling, so that's sort of fallen off the map a little bit for quality of win. But getting a win over this Michigan State team tonight, that one's going to stand up. That's a team that's going to be there in the long haul. So critical for this team to get that kind of win, and just kind of in any way that this team can continue to protect home court. That's really what it's all about at this point. The way the Big Ten's playing out this season, the strength of schedule, the strength of the Big Ten teams in the net and the RPI is basically such that if you can just hold serve at home, even if the road's a complete disaster, which by and large it has been for Indiana to this point, it doesn't matter because you'll be in good shape.
Yeah, because this is a gauntlet week at home where you have Michigan State and you have Maryland. I mean, you're hoping not to drop both of those,
right?
So you at least have the split at this point. I guess to discuss how they got there. It was a really even effort for the most part. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, it was 14 points for Joey Brunk led the way. Trace Jackson-Davis with 12. And Al Durham, I felt like he had 11, but every single point he scored was essential. It was that first bucket he hit on a jumper. It was a little bit of a hectic possession because they got a post touch, but the pass out was a little weird. I just remember that. And then Al Durham kind of hit a jumper, and you could just tell he had confidence. And once IU starts hitting shots, and they were 4 or 5 to start the game, they have confidence. And then Durham came at the end of the half, hit a 3, 37-30, and then hit a 3 to make it 63-60 late. Al Durham was just huge throughout the night.
He was. But this was a game that kind of it was sort of a typical ebb and flow of an IU game in a way, because they had the fast start, jump out really good, and then kind of hit that lull. But I think the key tonight was that lull wasn't as pronounced or as long as it has been in the past. Some of these games we've seen Indiana go through 8-10 minutes of maybe one field goal or something, or no field goals and just a few free throws or something like that. This time they were able to minimize that a little bit, and obviously that big Durham 3 at late in the half to give them a 7-point lead at halftime was huge. The lull kind of continued early second half a little bit, but they were at least scoring enough to kind of keep things at bay. The problem was Michigan State started hitting threes like crazy.
Yeah.
But the good thing for Indiana was you felt like at some point they were going to put something together, make some sort of run in this game, and they were able to do that in the final 8 minutes, basically.
The thing that was really interesting to me defensively in that first half is they were hedging ball screens really, really hard. And it seemed like it was pretty effective. It kind of got Michigan State out of its rhythm. It seemed like Cassius Winston, we asked Trace Jackson-Davis about it after the game. I mean, they didn't want to let him get downhill, because when he gets downhill, he's able to make a bunch of plays, either laying it up or finding somebody on a kick out. That didn't really happen much in the first half. I mean, he was 2 of 6 with 2 assists. So it was about as good of a job as you could do. But in the second half, like you said, I think Archie Miller said himself that they weren't quite as aggressive versus those ball screens. And maybe, Michigan State was able to start hitting some shots.
Yeah, and I think Michigan State made some adjustments. Instead of trying to make everything go downhill, they started spacing and putting guys in the corner. You had Gabe Brown hit a couple from there. Aaron Henry hit 1 or 2, I think. And then Winston got going himself, hit 2 or 3 in a row there at one point, I think. So, yeah, they definitely got going from 3, which is a little bit unusual for Michigan State. It's not a team that really typically lives and dies by the 3, but it really did in a lot of ways in that second half tonight. But, yeah, and the flip side of that is that you mentioned the big threes by Al Durham. Then Rob Finney hit one early in the second half that when Michigan State was in the middle of hitting all those threes. And then Armand Franklin hit one that tied the game at 51 after Michigan State had taken the lead. That was it. Indiana was only 4 of 12 from 3 tonight, and the 12 is tied for the third fewest this season. Matches the Ohio State game a couple of weeks ago. They only attempted 12 in that game as well. Those are the only games against Big Ten teams where they've attempted that few. So it's sort of a sign of some growth and some maturity for this team, that they're starting to realize that playing to their strengths is the way to go, and not just jack threes left and right when they kind of get antsy or things get down late in the shot clock, those sort of things. They were sort of more persistent tonight in getting the ball inside or driving the ball to the basket and making something good happen.
Man, a huge factor in the first half, and only the first half because he ended up getting hurt, was Race Thompson.
Yep.
He was all over the place. I just remember one, obviously, by the baseline, he stole the ball, ends up feeding a guy. I forget if he put it in or Race actually ended up finishing it. I forget.
Yeah, I know.
Forgetting the whole sequence, but I just remember him going after balls, under the basket, putting in a couple of shots. He was just really, really active, and I felt like it really, helped turn the tide for them. It was kind of unfortunate that he then fell really hard at the end of the first half, and Archie Miller says that it's a day-to-day thing. He hopes he was stiff. He hopes it's not like a major thing, but it was a shame he wasn't able to play out the whole game, but he really did impact things in the first half.
He did, and that's because Race Thompson's able to hedge those ball screens hard. He's also a guy that's not afraid to mix it up and be physical. I mean, he's the kind of guy that's built for playing Michigan State. You know you're going to get, kind of a slugfest type of game, a war on the glass, those kind of situations, and that's where Indiana really excelled when things were going well in the first half, as they were getting every 50-50 ball, it seemed. They were getting offensive rebounds. And that was really where Indiana made the plays down the stretch. Joey Brunk had that one where Rob Finney drove, had the ball knocked away. Joey Brunk grabs it, throws in the reverse layup just to beat the shot clock. Just plays like that, and that's really been the difference. And another great game for Joey Brunk. I mean, I know some people kind of questioned early in the year, is this guy really going to help us that much? Is he going to make a difference? It was kind of like, I don't know. But it's very clear right now that he is making all the difference in the world for this team, not only in terms of his production, but just in terms of the effort level, the intensity, just the way he goes about things is rubbing off on this team.
Yeah, I think he's just the perfect personality, a type of blue-collar player, and it's kind of a glue guy. I mean, you see one guy going that hard, it feels like everybody else around him's going just a little bit harder. And
I think he's really very similar to what Max Bielfeldt brought to Indiana back in 2016. Basically, you had the same situation. A grad transfer guy had been through some things at another power conference school, came in, and some games he scored, some games he didn't. It didn't matter. He just kind of had that experience about him, that vibe about him, that blue-collar aspect to him that was really, just the kind of leadership that team needed, and that's kind of what Joey Brunk's brought in a little different way, but the same kind of thing to this team.
Yeah, I think Archie Miller said after the game is invaluable. It's just what he brings. He couldn't even measure it, he said. And, he just seems to get better every game and every week, and that's just something we've heard a lot about just in terms of his work ethic. I know he lifts 4 times a week when you're supposed to only lift twice a week.
And, see, a guy like that's perfect to have when you have a kid like Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, it gives you the perfect tone setter, example setter, perfect leader to pull this young guy with you and say, this is how you put in the time, this is how you put in the work. And not to say that Trace Jackson Davis wouldn't work hard anyway, because I think he's a pretty natural-born hard worker and puts the effort in. But it's the perfect tandem to pull those guys along. And then when you get one guy pulling another guy, and then you get 2 guys pulling a third guy, and then you start to pull a Justin Smith who's kind of been up and down and not so even keel throughout his career. You start to pull a guy like that along, and that's when you start really seeing strides made with the team.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in particular to bring up. I'm drawing a blank.
I think the other thing that I would note, and probably to the point of not jacking a bunch of threes in this game, is we didn't see much of Devontae Green, particularly in the second half. He only played 5 minutes in the second half. I think 13 and a half total. So almost 9 minutes in the first half, only 5 in the second half, and Archie Miller basically rode with Rob Finney, Al Durham, and a little bit of Armand Franklin at the guard spots.
Yeah, I think that's, again, what we think maybe this role is for Devontae. Coming off the bench is probably where he's suited to be because, if he's playing well, you ride him.
If it goes well, you go with it, and if it doesn't, you just say forget it.
And then you ride with the other guys, and I think that's just what they're going to have to do. And I guess the only other thing I'd mention is, Trace Jackson Davis gets switched off in the last play of the game on Cassius Winston to be able to. I don't know if they're counting that as a block or not. I think it
was a lob pass. Really,
lob. I don't know what it was, but that was a key play too. So,
but you know what Trace told Cassius Winston? You get on that play, you get 0.
Clever. There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of leftover stuff from our announcers tonight. I'm not even sure who was doing the game on FS1 tonight, but
Gus Johnson was, I think.
Oh yeah, Gus Johnson. Yeah, maybe it's Gus Johnson Sprite 0. Maybe also Purell hand sanitizer if you're interested.
I don't
We
know.
also have a Dasani water, and for those with less refined taste, we also have some Kroger water. So,
Yeah. So you better get here within the next 20 minutes.
If you want your
Probably
Gus
gone.
Johnson souvenirs, get to Simon Scott Assembly Hall now before I put them on eBay.
All right. So that's that. Again, number 17, Maryland visits on Sunday. So another really big game coming.
Another big opportunity. Definitely.
So, all right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys again.
See you then.